In recent years, gambling in teenage boys fueled by online platforms has become a major public health concern. Well, now a new report reveals how teens could be hearing ads for gambling through some of the most popular podcasts.
It comes from the nonprofit watchdog group Campaign for Accountability. The report found 44 out of the top 100 podcasts on YouTube have been running host-read ads for gambling and sports betting, which anyone can hear. This follows a separate survey last year, which found YouTube is the place where teen boys are most likely to see gambling ads.
Dr. Michelle Chung, a licensed clinical psychologist, joins us now to break down this new study. She's the founder of In Practice Psychology Group and co-founder of the nonprofit Modern Approach to Parenting. Dr. Chung, thank you so much for being here. So this report, it says 53% of the top YouTube podcasts with host-read ads promoted at least one online gambling sponsor in the past year. But then look at these other numbers. That jumps to 66% for shows hosted by men, 83% for sports podcasts, and a staggering 93% for podcasts hosted by male stand-up comedians. I think kind of the idea here is that a lot of those audiences are going to be young males. How could those ads influence those particular listeners to potentially start online gambling or that sports betting?
Well, this isn't just about advertising or entertainment. It really becomes about influence. There's a social modeling that happens here. And these podcasts are just opening these gates where kids can get exposure, and they're hearing it from people that they've grown to trust. And when you hear it, especially a lot of these podcasts are doing it, podcasters are doing it with their own voices. And so they're hearing it from these people that they trust, that they know. And after a while, it doesn't start to feel like an advertisement. To the adolescent brain, it feels like an endorsement.
We mentioned this report found that kids of any age could actually hear these host-read ads. YouTube's policies say content promoting online casino sites is age restricted. We also know in response to this report, YouTube said it was committed to rigorously enforcing its gambling policies and would be closely reviewing the content that was identified. In your opinion, what should the platform be doing to try and curb this exposure to children and to teens?
I think there definitely are better ways that they could be paying attention to the age gating, right? How much exposure, whether it's the podcasters and advertisements, or even just the content of what the podcast is talking about, how much of that is being actually filtered out for younger teens? Because you're right, there are a lot of people who are able to, the accessibility is just too easy. And I really do think, quite like alcohol or vaping or tobacco, there could be some information or disclosures, maybe disclaimers, that could be out there on these podcasts or close to where the advertisements are being placed that says, hey, this is something that could be a behavior, a compulsion. This is something that we need to be careful of.
Dr. Chung, it's impossible for parents to monitor everything their teen watches, though some may try. But how can they attempt to get ahead of this before it potentially does translate into an actual behavior, into getting into that betting?
Now, I don't want parents to feel afraid here, but I do want parents to be aware. It really starts with information. How, as parents, can you get this conversation going with your child? You want to make sure that you open the topic and the conversation in a way that it's not judgmental. We just want to enter the conversation with curiosity and say, hey, I noticed that there's a lot of advertisements, maybe a lot of conversations here about sports betting, about online gambling. Have you noticed that too? And just open it up with that. And you want to give them the information and say, hey, do you know that as a teenager, your brain is wired for rewards? It's not wired to look out for risks. And it might feel like, oh, these podcasters, they're talking about this in a way that seems fun, that seems like, oh, we're going to be able to win. But hey, the odds are stacked against us here. And just give them that information so that they can go into those situations knowing.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, no one likes to be manipulated, right?
Right. And ads are just one chapter of the fact that just gambling is so much more accessible in the last few years than it was just a few years ago. I mean, big picture, how do we tackle that problem? It's not just the advertising, but what are some of the things you would like to see us do to try and make sure younger people don't get addicted to gambling at a young age?
You're right. Casinos, you would have to actually get there,
Yeah.
right? You'd have to go someplace. Now it's just right in your pockets, and it is so accessible. So really being able to put some sort of again, like the age gating, right? I think that is really incredibly important. Like how, whether it's putting filters as from the parent side on your devices, on certain websites, you want to make sure that these are some clean runways for our kids to be able to get less accessibility and less exposure to some of these advertisements. And the more and more it seems normal, the more and more that these kids' brains look at it as, oh, this is something that is okay, right? So absolutely, we want to make sure that we're on top of and noticing what our kids are listening to, what they're being exposed to.
All right, Dr. Michelle Chung, really important conversation. Thanks so much for joining us.